And we're back, Facets Television, at the Gina Missing Project Squeaky Wheel Tour in Los Angeles. And I am sitting in this room with Elizabeth Smart and Ed Smart, her father. For those of you who don't know the story, Elizabeth was abducted in June of 2002 and miraculously was brought home to her family in March of 2003. Thank you so much for talking to me. I understand you have a foundation that you've put your energy into to move forward in your future. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Our slogan or motto is stopping victimization and bringing hope. And the two of our main focuses right now is one of them working on supporting and helping to fund the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force team.
Okay.
And they're an incredible organization, or they're an incredible task force in what they do. Not everyone can do what they do, but we have the technology and the know-how of how to locate the physical location of where child pornography is being manufactured. What the ICACs do, they are able to go in and they're able to trace it to that location, and they're able to, in so many instances, 1 out of 3 instances, they're able to rescue a child from that situation, that abusive, horrific situation.
Yeah, it truly is horrific. And I understand too that they're actually tagging photographs now so that they can tell if it's been part of a ring or, you know, a mass production.
Absolutely. It's amazing what they can do with technology. You know, as I've had an opportunity of seeing what's happening out there, you think that less than 2% of them are being investigated. I mean, that's huge when you consider the factor Elizabeth brought up of the 1 in 3. So it has the potential of being one of the greatest saves out there. And you know, you relate that to sex trafficking. Well, this really is sex trafficking.
Yeah.
I mean, those pictures are being created. Unfortunately, in many cases, it's a family or family member that are, you know, involved in this, and you know, we really need to stop it, because what it is doing is perpetuating the cycle of violence out there.
Yeah.
And you know, the whole issue of sex trafficking and trying to bring people out of this nightmare that they're living in is something that is so important. You know, as a family, we're so grateful to have Elizabeth come home and have her resume and find that you know, what happened to her was not her fault. And I think that so many of those in the sex trafficking area, you know, whether they are runaways or others that are just basically abducted and brought into this, or even sold. Yeah. I mean, there is just a horrific cycle there that is destroying people's lives. And you know, the fabric of our communities has changed so much. You know, most of the time we don't know who our neighbors are, what's going on next door.
That's true.
And the value of knowing who they are and you know, being a neighbor, I think is so important. We, I think, have a responsibility to each other, to help each other. And the Elizabeth Smart Foundation is pushing forward in both being reactive with the internet crimes in a way that helps to stop the child pornography out there. But you know, recently I heard that the comment, well, what we're currently doing is really more of a triage rather than really getting out there and doing it. And when you think of those children waiting to be rescued, Elizabeth waited for 9 months and felt as if, you know, she could not get away. You know, Brian Mitchell was a mass manipulator, and these children that are being abused out there need to be saved.
Yeah, and I think too, I having been involved in this, I don't just come at this from a journalistic perspective. I've been involved in the prevention situation for about 15 years, and you don't realize how many children love their sister and their brother and their mom and dad so much that they're willing to put themselves through horrific things in defense of that family member because they're threatened or told, you know, if you don't stay with me or do what I want you to, I'm going to go find your little sister. And that just makes it that much worse.
Absolutely. And from that standpoint, when you think of the funds that go out in a rescue, in an investigation, in trying to do all of this work, if we were proactive and we help the children understand when someone's crossing that line.
Yeah.
What is acceptable, what isn't acceptable. That's why the Rad Kids program, which Elizabeth can tell you a little bit about that.
Well, that's our other focus in the foundation is the Rad Kids program, and it's based on 3 very simple principles. I'm going to tell them to you, and you're like,
Please.
well, duh, that's so common sense. But the first one is you're special and nobody has the right to hurt you. The second one is because you're special and everyone else is special, you don't have the right to hurt anybody else unless they are hurting you and you can make them stop. The third one, which I think is the most important, and especially for children to understand, is that it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's a parent, it doesn't matter if it's a friend, it doesn't matter if it's a teacher, clergyman, whomever.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if they are hurting you. It is not your fault, and it's okay to tell.
I think that's the fundamentals of kids needing to know that yes, you respect elders, but not at your own expense.
Absolutely.
And that if you are being injured,
Exactly.
it doesn't, like you said, doesn't matter who it is. And you got to drive that into children, because if they don't
Exactly.
get it, they feel like, well, this is my teacher, and I really don't want to get in trouble. And
Exactly, and the great thing about Rad Kids is it draws that line in the sand, so children know what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, and they know when that line is crossed that they have choices and that they can do something about them. It helps them help themselves to
Exactly.
formulate a plan for whatever situation they may find themselves faced with.
Now, I understand that Rad Kids is affiliated with, also with Samantha's foundation as well.
Joyful Child.
Joyful Child Foundation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know Aaron very well, so
Yeah.
it's an exciting program. Is there a self-defense element to it, as I understand it, too?
Absolutely.
What is that about?
There's probably not more than 10 minutes that'll ever go by without children having to get up and learn some kind of self-defense move. And it's not so much the moves that are important, but it's the fact that they're teaching them, that they're learning that, one, it's okay to know these things and it's okay to do these things.
Yep.
Because I think in many of our minds, in many of our, I don't know, we need permission.
And we're trained to be gentle as human
Yeah.
beings in general. So
We
I
need
can see
permission
yeah.
to know these things. We need permission to be able to act upon these things. So it teaches children different moves they can do with different parts of their body, but it's not the moves that are so important as it is just the children realizing, well, just because my hands are tied doesn't mean I can't kick, or doesn't
Right.
mean I can't headbutt them,
Right.
or if my arm, or if my legs are tied, like I can hit them with my hands, or I can poke their eyes out, or I can bite them.
And it's okay.
It's okay. It just teaches them that they can use any part of their body, and it doesn't necessarily need to be the move that they learned in class, but just so that they know that they have the power to act, that they can use whatever they have in order to get away.
Well, I have to say that it's really incredible to see you have, and I don't even know that you've come this far. It seemed to me like you had adjusted in your own mind that you were going to be okay from the beginning. I think that's fascinating to watch. I mean, I've been involved enough to know what it does to people, and your bravery is phenomenal.
I think what Jannel is doing is fantastic. I think one of the key proponents of this whole tour is media awareness, and I think that does so much for any child who's missing. I know that played a huge role in helping to bring me home, was my parents continually being out in the spotlight every day, trying to push my story and trying to help people remember me, so that if they ever saw me, that they would remember and that they'd call so that I would be rescued one day. And eventually that is what happened, and I think that can happen for so many more children.
If you don't get a chance to talk to every kid in the country, but we never know who might be watching, so what do you have to say to those kids that may run into the situation that you did?
Well, I mean, I'd go back over the 3 rules I just mentioned. You're special. Nobody has the right to hurt you. It's okay to tell, and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
I would tell them those things. I'd tell them that nobody has the right to hurt them.
Absolutely.
Nobody has the right to take their life away or ruin their life.
You know, I think that when Elizabeth came home, the thing that we wanted to reiterate to Elizabeth was that all of those things that happened to her were absolutely not her fault, and she held no responsibility, because responsible,
Yeah.
and they have some guilt or they have some responsibility in what's happening out there. And I think that is one of the things that not only chains them, handcuffs them so that they, whether they were literally handcuffed, it mentally handcuffs them to make them feel a responsibility for what's happening. Absolutely, disables them.
Yeah.
And so the value of we worked with Aaron in this Not One More Child, which basically is the integration of the Joyful Child's parental component, helping parents to understand what they can do, what they need to know, and how they can help their children get into the Rad Kids program. It is really wonderful, and Aaron's a dear friend, and we want to see it move forward.
Well, I can't say enough. I could spend all day talking to you, but you really are one of my heroes.
Thank you.
So keep up the good fight, and thank you for sharing with me. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you've been watching Facets Television.